God's a gift right there in front of you. But, you know, and just through over the, you know, just over the months and as the years progress, man, he's really been a blessing to my life. And I know that he's going to be a blessing for you guys today. So without any further ado, I want to welcome Elder Jason.
Somebody forgot to tell me I wasn't young anymore.
You're not that old.
I know, right?
Your ex. We're like the generation right before them.
Somebody forgot to tell me that. I will dye my beard if it helps. Good Lord, I don't want anybody to be turned off just because of that. How's everybody doing tonight? Good.
Doing good.
I think connection to community is super awesome.
Yes.
Super awesome. Neighborhood councils, block clubs, and all of that. So that the movement expands beyond just us. So that we can, in some way, start the conversation. About what needs to change. Yeah, that's awesome. I thank God that people have great ideas, and that God has sent them to this house so that we can be exposed to them. I want to continue the conversation about conversion because we talked a little bit about that last week, and I can't get the subject of authentic Christianity out of my mind. For some reason, it's stuck, right? And we have to do a better job, generally speaking, of communicating the gospel in such a way that it can be lived instead of just learned.
That's good.
It is possible, and I will tell you from personal experience, it is possible to have more than 200 scriptures memorized, and I mean be able to have a group of young men and young women around and you're just rattling them off as fast as your brain can think of them, chapter and verse, and not be able to live a single one of them. Wow. So then what is the Bible then? What good is the Bible if it is only something that we use for the sake of our intellectual pursuits, but it doesn't have the power to change our decisions? How much more or less value does it have? I mean, you know, you can also study Plato, right? You can also study Cornel West. And you can study any number of great thinkers if intellectual pursuit is your thing. But if it's real life change, where you want to experience the power of God to change a life, there is only one place where you find that, and that's in His Word. And it's really not about being able to memorize the Scriptures. It's about being able to test them and internalize them. That's why you have a bunch of people over there in the other church, in the other side of the church, who are very old. Well, okay, very is kind of a strong word. who don't have degrees, who can't tell you where the verse is. But I bet they got power with God.
Amen. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
I bet you they got power. Talk to Jesus on my behalf. And if you feel like I need to be laying on the floor, okay, here we go. I'm on the floor. Just, have power with God, right? There's a passage of scripture, and please excuse my stream of consciousness, lecturing style, I guess. There's a scripture that's been on my mind for years, and every so often I give myself time to think about it. And it is the passage where Jacob is old now, and he's almost ready to die. And the Bible says, and Jacob worshiped the Lord, leaning on his staff. After all the years that he'd spent, he still had the evidence, that staff, and the fact that he had to lean on it, from the night he wrestled with God. He still carried with him the mark of the night he found power with God. Because that night God changed his name from Jacob to Israel. From a man who lives by his wit to someone who is a prince with God. And he carried the limp. So God never did anything about the limp. Because the limp was somehow evidence that he had power with God. So people walk around, people they go over there and they say these things that are really I want to use the word stupid, but may I use the word stupid?
Yes.
They say very stupid things, You don't look like what you've been through. Oh no, yes I do. I paid for every scar I paid for this limp. This limp means I have power with God.
Jesus.
Ask me about it. And that's what I want to talk. That leads me into what I want to talk about tonight, and that's in Luke chapter 22. Luke chapter 22. How is it that we can call ourselves Christians and have very little connection to Christ? Other than our doctrinal position. I mean, we're real good about quoting the doctrine, yes, right? But when it comes down to it, have you ever felt the power of God? Have you ever felt the power of God to such a degree that it dilates time? You go in and have this little 15-minute conversation with God, and hours have passed, and you didn't even know. Oh yeah. And for some of us, I'm glad you said that, because for some of us it's about trying to get back to that.
Yeah.
Where did that go? What happened to my priorities that all of a sudden now I don't seem to have time to spend with God like we used to? Anyway, Luke chapter 22. I told you I've been excited about this day since last week, Monday, when I left here. Okay, verse 32 is where I want to hang out. All right. And the Lord said, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan hath desired to have that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for you that your faith fail not.
Jesus. Okay.
And when you are converted, strengthen thy brother. You must never be afraid of the challenges you have in your life. Because God may not decide to stop Satan from having you. But the prayer has already been prayed.
Yes, God.
That your faith fail not.
God.
Right. So, let's back up a little bit. Simon, listen to me. Calls him by his government name. You know, because Jesus called him Peter. Simon, little rock that can be held in the hand. Right? Peter means boulder, one that cannot be lifted. Right? I can't call you Peter because Peter is something that's so big that it cannot be lifted. You will be Peter, but today you are silent. Today you are silent. Something that can be lifted, something that can be removed from its place. You can't remove the boulder from its place, but you can remove the little rock. So Simon, little rock. Simon. Satan, the enemy of God, the enemy of truth, the enemy of your peace, the enemy of your joy, the enemy of your creativity, the enemy of your inspiration, wishes to possess your life, not your soul, but he wishes to upset your life. So that now you are thinking about your problem and not your problem solver. Because one thing that our enemy knows, that Jesus already intimated to us, is that human beings can be very much like sheep given the right stressors. And here's why I say this. Because a sheep cannot see 6 inches beyond its nose. It does not have very good sight. The reason that a sheep needs a shepherd is because a sheep will eat the grass around itself And because it cannot see that there's grass, that there's more grass 3 feet that way, he will sit down and starve. I want to ask you, how many times have you been so short-sighted that you can only focus on the problem at hand?
Yes.
Do you know what that's called? It's called worry. And you come back around that same set of worries over and over again. Because you are short-sighted, what you cannot see is that God has already worked it out. And that all you have to do is kind of be patient and wait on God. And he'll show you who, and he'll show you where, and he'll show you when. But if you're so focused on trying to solve the problem yourself, that all you can see is the problem, you'll never see him. And you'll never hear him. Because you're not listening for him. He desires to have you that he may sift you as wheat. Now, here's the sifting process. What they would do is they would take stalks of wheat and grab them by the stalk side so that the wheat side is up, and go to a pole inside the barn or whatever, and beat the wheat against the pole to knock the wheat and the chaff off the stalk. And then, once they've done that, then they would take a pitchfork or a shovel of some kind and take the wheat and the chaff and throw it in the air. And the wind would cause the wheat to fall and the chaff to blow away. And if you do that enough, all you have left on the ground is wheat, because the chaff is blown away. Don't be afraid of the beating, because God has a way of making the enemy's plan work in his favor. Here I come. Simon, Satan wishes to grab you by your feet and beat you against the pole until the wheat in you and the chaff in you is knocked off. Because, quite honestly, there's a little bit of wheat and a little bit of chaff in all of us.
That's good.
And that comes out of the Helmut Thielich presentation directly. So let's not be dishonest with ourselves and look at somebody else and try and call them wheat, and try to call us wheat and try and call them chaff, because you catch me on the right day and I might be a little more chaff that day than I am wheat.
A little chaffy, come on.
A little chaffy today. Catch me on a different day, I may be a little more wheat than chaff. And it takes challenge. It takes adversity to reveal the wheat side and the chaff side in all of us. So my question to the text was, God, if you are all powerful and you are all good, then why put Peter and Satan in the same room? Why do you want him to suffer? Why, God, this is one of the big questions in life, you know. If you are all powerful, then why didn't you stop the suffering?
Come on, man.
Why didn't you just let that man live his life? You know why? Because there was some chaff in him that needed to be knocked off. He was not able to become Peter for as long as he was still chaffy. For as long as he was still chaffy, he was Simon, able to be moved. But when God knocked the chaff off of him, he was Peter. So strong and so big that he was unable to be moved. So maybe suffering is about revealing parts of us that need to stay and other parts that need to leave. You know, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. They're not here. I'm going to confess to you. It's been a long time since my last confession. I want to confess that I like stuff that needs to leave.
Come on.
I want to confess that if it were a voluntary decision, if I were looking at my own character, I would tell you that it may not be good for me, but it is good to me. I don't want it to leave, because what would I do if it did? Man, I'm going to do some confessing tonight.
Come on.
They got these cameras in my face and everything. Lord.
They need it too.
The Lord bless you on social media. Please send your comments and your questions. I love y'all. But don't complain about my gray beard. Sorry. All right, here's my confession. I had child abuse issues when I was growing up. My stepfather was a horrible man. I just thought he was a horrible man, but what I didn't know was that he was drunk during the times that he was being horrible, so I didn't know that. That's not an excuse, but that's what happened. So I swore to myself, I will never be like him. I will live my life so as never to be like him. And he became the center of my world because he was my point of reference. I was so angry with him that I did not know what to do without the anger that I had for him. And when I was in my lower 30s, 31, 32, I can't really remember, God said to me, forgive him. And I was like, we're not doing that. No. I've had murder on my mind for 30 years. The next time I see him, it's on and cracking. Because I'm grown now. You ain't never going to put your hands on me again. Or nobody else. Right? It's something that needed to leave. But I liked it. I built my life around it. And God told me to forgive him and let it go.
So finally I did. Oh, no, that's wrong. I was 26. I remember. I was 26. So I finally got to the place where I could obey God and forgive Him. Right? 5 years later, I switched churches and I'm sitting in church and guess who's a member of that church? Right? So now I have to preach the love of Jesus and forgive your enemies. And there's somebody that was an enemy to me for all those years. And who knew that God would work it out so that only 5 years before this day, God had told me to forgive him. And I got to the place where I could, so that he and I could go to the same church and we could live peacefully with one another. And only a year after that, he set me in his car and begged my forgiveness for all the things that had happened from before. So I'm telling you that God has a way of sifting you. God has a way of allowing challenge and allowing adversity into your life to take you from being somebody that can be moved to somebody that cannot be moved. This is what conversion is about. And it feels like you're being tossed in the air. The adversity. It feels like somebody has a shovel under your life and you're going, woo! And just about the time you settle down, here they come again, woo! But that process is there. And this is the one thing Satan never knew. That process was there particularly so that the wind could drive the chaff away, so that the only thing left was that which was usable to God. I don't want to get high up in the ministry and have cameras in my face all the time and be traveling to and fro and still have the kind of character that can't hold my family together when I get home. This isn't philosophy. You out there trying to talk about the goodness of the Lord and all of this kind of thing, and you can't control your hormones, you can't control your urges, and you can't control your desires, and you got a girlfriend in every city and a wife at home. God, keep me anonymous until I have the character that will not embarrass you. Will you make my name great? Don't give me a great name if I can't handle it. Keep me Little Rock, where don't nobody know who I am until you work out the chaff in my life. Before you make me the big rock that will get out there and embarrass your name. Then he says, Interestingly enough, right? After you are converted, as if this process that he's talking about in the beginning. Oh, I'm too far ahead. I jumped to the good part too fast. I sure did. I sure did. So we're at the wheat and the chaff. But I have prayed for you. The part that is settled in heaven is the structure necessary for your success, your spiritual success. So when the adversity comes, I hear people say all the time, "Oh, I can't take it. I can't take any more. I can't take this. I can't take that." And I say to you, you can take it because it's here. There hath no temptation taken you than that which is common to men. But God, with the temptation, will always allow a way for you, a way of escape, so that you will be able to bear it. Now, I used to find that term a bit contradictory, because are we escaping or are we bearing? Tell me. Are you getting me out of this, or are you strengthening me through it? I just want to know. And I believe the answer is this: that God does not allow anything to come into your life that He knows you can't handle. The only person that doesn't know that you can handle it is you.
So true. So true.
And that's what testing is about. That's what testing the scriptures is about. That's what testing your mettle, your own mettle, is about. And it's not about passing or failing, right? Because who is the proctor of the exam? The proctor is God. He already knows what the score is going to be. So we are not being tested for His purpose. So it cannot be the common thinking on the word testing. So the test now has to be more about pushing the envelope of a thing. This chair is rated to hold a certain amount of pounds. Let's call it, for round numbers, 1,000 pounds. This chair is rated to hold 1,000 pounds. How do we know this? Because we tested it. We put 1,000 pounds on it. We put 1,500 pounds on it. We put 1,800 pounds on it, and that's when it started to buckle. So we can safely say that this chair is rated to hold 1,000 pounds. What is your life rated to hold? Are the shoulders of your life rated to hold the weight that God may one day require you to carry? The responsibility that God may require you to carry. And this is not a man thing, and this is not a woman thing in particular. Because there's some women out here with some real strong shoulders, let me tell you.
Amen.
Things come in to life and out of life. And you've got to be able bear it. Get under it and lift it. And it's not about accessing the power of someone else to help you lift it. It's about accessing the power of God to help you lift it. I prayed for you. That's the structure. That your faith, he could have chosen any other word. You know, that your joy fail not. Right? That your peace fail not. There's eight other aspects of the fruit of the Spirit that he could have called on. But he called on faith. You're going to be sifted. But one thing that's not going to wane is your ability to believe God. I suppose I should mute this so that it doesn't do that again. Please help me. It is your ability to believe God that aids in your conversion. Because the more I go through challenge, for lack of a better word, the deeper my ability to believe him. The more he takes me through, the more he takes you through, the more I can believe him. Oh, I mean, you know, he was good for, you know, turn the music on and that's all right. But one day the music's going to stop playing. And one day life is going to happen. And where's the music then? Authentic Christianity. Where is it? Believe me, I'm sitting at home, looking around, wishing somebody would play something. I can't play nothing. I wish I could. Now all I have is my ability to believe him. God, I trust you. Woo! I bought that from him. God, I trust you. I don't know what's going on right now, but I trust you. I have no solutions, but I trust you. I don't even understand why I have to be going through this, but I trust you. Because the choice to trust God is binary. Either you trust him or you don't. And if you don't trust him, then you are going to start instituting alternatives and distractions in order to deal with the discouragement. And if you institute some kind of a distraction, there is a possibility that the distraction will control your life. It is not a possibility, it is a probability. Now all of a sudden, we got us a 20-year drinking habit.
That.
I was just trying to numb some pain. I was going through something. And we was just going to drink a little bit, but it got good to me. Now, all of a sudden, 20 years later, I've wrecked my life when I could have trusted God. I could have trusted him way back then. You put whatever distraction you want to put there. I just put that one there because it felt good to put it there.
Come on, sir.
And that's what it is. Just a distraction. But if you trust him, if you choose to trust him, that's what I like about this. Is that I can choose to trust him. He doesn't. This is not robot faith, where he makes me trust him or makes me not trust him. I can choose to trust God. And if I trust him, if I trust him when it hurts the most, if I trust him, if I can trust him through the tears in my eyes, if I can trust him when my heart is broken, if I can trust him when I'm all by myself, if I can trust him, at the end of it is the testimony. And I look back at what I've gone through and say it was hard, but it didn't get my faith. It may have got some money, but it didn't get my faith. It may have cost me a girlfriend, or it may have cost me some time, or it may have cost me something terrestrial. But as far as my eternal soul is concerned, hallelujah! This problem didn't get me. So whenever something like this comes again, my shoulders are rated to hold it. Come on. Because he's held me up once before. And I know that if something like this ever happens again, he will. God help me today. Yes. He will strengthen me to hold it again. And you edge closer and closer to conversion, to the absolute persuasion of the reality of God and his love and care for you, because you've experienced him. No, I didn't experience the trial. I experienced God in it. Yes. Peter, what did you experience in the storm? Did you experience the storm? Well, yeah, there were some winds and some waves around there, but what I really experienced is what happens when I see Jesus in the storm. That's what I experienced. If he never saw Jesus in the storm, we would not be talking about it. It wouldn't be in the Bible. It would be just another storm. Nothing special here. Nothing to see here. But because he was able to experience Jesus in the storm, now he's got something to talk about. Now we are talking about it 2,000 years later. Why? I'll tell you why. Because I got storms. Oh no, they may not be literally windy and literally wavy, but I got some ups and downs in my life that are threatening to turn me over. And if I can see Jesus in this here storm, I mean, really, what is it? One trouble from another. That's not memorable. What's memorable is how you experience God in the middle of it. I trusted him, and he didn't let me down. I lost some things, but I lost it in the process of trying to hold on to him. When you are converted, when you are sure, beyond all doubt, of the care of God for you, then that puts you in a position to teach other people how to trust him.